Today in class, we're going to identify what you need to solve for in the percent word problem. We're also going to set up the percent proportion and then solve for the missing part. This is what your playbook entry should look like. So go ahead and make sure that you have this on your desk. If you don't, you need to pause the video and raise your hand. If you do have it, you need to pause the video, take your scissors and cut along the outer black line, and then glue the section down into page 35 of your playbook. There are three types of percent questions. There's the missing part, find the missing percent, and find the missing whole. But every single one of them uses this right here, which is called our percent proportion. We use a percent proportion in order for us to organize the information that we take from a word problem so that we can set it up and solve for whatever it's asking for. Specifically, today we're going to work on finding the missing part. So here we have the part up at the top, and usually it's referred to as is. So when it says, what is 15% of 23? We're finding the part, we're given the percent, which is 15, and the whole is of 23. So given those keywords lets us know where to put them in our percent proportion. So when you get a question and you're not too sure where it belongs or where the numbers belong, go ahead and take this page back out so that you can verify that you're using the percent proportion correctly and you're identifying the keywords. So let's look at solving for missing part. We're going to look for how to solve what is 15% of 23. We're going to go ahead and we're going to build our percent proportion. When you watch the Math Antics video, it's not going to have you set up the percent proportion. It's going to have you solve by multiplying or dividing certain things. You need to go ahead and set up the percent proportion regardless when we're doing our exercises after the video, and there are instructions on the actual activity to remind you to set up your percent proportions. But if you ever get confused, pause the video or stop, raise your hand, and I will come over to talk to you about it. So going back here to figuring out what is 15% of 23, we're going to need to fill in our percent proportion. Is goes on top. Total, which is our of, goes on bottom, and then percent goes over the 100. So I already know my percent, which is 15. And I know my of because I have of right there. It's of 23. So 23 goes here at the bottom. I'm trying to find my part, which is at the top. So what I'm going to do is look at 23 to 100. Can't go nicely. So I'm going to take 23 and I'm going to multiply it by my 15. So I take 23 and I multiply it by 15. So I'm going to rewrite that a lot better. 23 times 15, work it all out. And whatever I get as my answer will be divided by 100. So when I multiply 23 times 15, I get 345. Then I need to divide by 100, which basically just moves my decimal over 2 times, and I get 3 45/100. The other thing that you could have done is you could have taken 15, divided it by 100, which you get 0.15, which is 15/100, and then multiply it by 23 to get the 3 45/100. This is what the Math Antics video will show you. So if you don't understand that, it will show you further on. Now let's look at what is 215% of 44. Well, I know where my percent goes. I know that my of 44, my 44 goes at the bottom. And so what this is telling me is that I need to figure out what is 215% of 44. So there's there's several ways you can do it. One of which is you can take the decimal form of 215%, multiply it by 44, and then you don't have to divide by 100 because when you take the decimal form of 215%, you're already dividing it by 100 to move that decimal over. And then whatever you get is your part. Or you take 215 times 44. So you cross multiply. You can take 215 and you can multiply it by 44. You get your answer, and whatever you get, you divide by 100. So when you multiply 215 with 44, you get 9,460. You'll take that answer and you'll divide it by 100, which all that does is it moves the decimal over 2 times, which would give us 94 and 60 hundredths, or 94 and 6 tenths. So now that you have an example here, what you're going to do is you're going to pause the video and go to the next slide. Watch the Math Antics video that goes over more options of finding the missing. Then when you've finished watching that Math Antics video, you're going to go ahead and do your independent practice.